Hey, this is Ree here. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate everyone. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing. It's been really helping my channel. And your comments keeps me going, so thank you so much. And don't forget to check out my website, paradxastrology.com. I am a professional astrologer. I can help you with anything. Thank you to my Patreons who support this channel and keep it going as well. If you like occult videos and you want to see more exclusive videos that I don't post on YouTube, feel free to subscribe to my Patreon. Okay, so let's get into this video. We have a lot to talk about. Now, the month of April is going to be starting a lot of new things, and it's going to be very busy, and it's going to be basically a new beginning for a lot of things, but it's also going to bring some confusion. We'll get into that. Now, this is mostly for the world. Your chart is different, but I will try to put out as many examples as possible so that you can relate to it, but never be in fear of anything I say. It depends on so many factors when it comes to your chart. I'm just reading mostly for the world. Okay, so in April, one major thing that we have happening is Jupiter is going to be going into Aries. From the moment that I'm shooting this video until May 3rd, 2023, Jupiter will be combust. So what that means is Jupiter will be within 11 degrees of the sun. When a planet is within a certain degree amount from the sun, it loses its capabilities of granting the beautiful things that come with that planet. Although we'll have Jupiter in Aries, there will be some things hindering it. The other thing that's hindering Jupiter is the fact that we have Saturn aspecting Rahu. So Jupiter will be going into Aries where Rahu is currently. But the thing is that we have Saturn aspecting Rahu on its third aspect, which is called Shapid Yog or Shapid Dosh. Some people call it a cursed combination. It is a cutting off of the benefits of the planets within this aspect. So anything between Saturn in Aquarius and Rahu in Aries, including Aquarius and Aries, will be cutting off the strength of these planets. Now we're going to have a lot of planets in Aries, and most of the planets will be between these two planets, Saturn and Rahu. We're in for some turbulent times because we don't have the full effects of these planets. There is another thing to consider as well. Now, the other thing happening is called the Papkatar Yoga. That is when there is a malefic planet at one side, usually the 12th house, and then the other one in the second house. So causing everything in between to have a cutting off as well. So we have two things going on that include the same planets, but it makes it more malefic. And it also brings karmic events. On April 11th, Jupiter will conjunct the sun at an exact degree, and it will lose all effects at that point. Now, we got to think, what is Jupiter? Jupiter has to do with abundance, finance, advertising agencies, gold. So everything I'm about to name is going to be fluctuating, and I'll explain that after. Now, it has to do with spirituality, religion, attorneys, churches, people who audit, casinos, commerce in general, corporate law, counselors, courts of all kinds, education facilities, teachers, higher education like universities, insurance, inflation, literature, the ultra rich, publications or writing publications, rental properties, religious leaders, foreign policies, Republican parties, scientific institutions, social gatherings, stocks, sugar, wholesale trade, traveling, and temples. Those are just to name a few things. So everything that I'm naming now is going to fluctuate because we have the aspect onto Jupiter. Now, Saturn, remember, Saturn is constrictive. Saturn is limitation and its boundaries. Jupiter is the opposite. Jupiter has to do with expansion, exaggerations, and generosity. So you see now how we have a conflicting energy between both of them. Whenever Saturn and Jupiter come together, there ends up being very karmic things that occur because they're so different. So it kind of has this push and pull. So we'll have this roller coaster ride of things occurring. The last time that they came together at an exact conjunction was the pandemic. I have some concerns that this could have to do with health. Now, the reason I have these concerns about that is because we have so much energy that is concentrated in Ashwini. Jupiter will be going into Ashwini when it goes into Aries, once it's at that 0 degrees. April 20th, we'll have a total solar eclipse in Ashwini, bringing more Ashwini Ashwini energy. We'll also have Mercury in Aries. It'll be in Ashwini, but then go to Bharani, and it will be combust from April 24th to the 23rd of May. And then it also retrogrades on April 21st to May 15th. And it will be retrograding in Bharani, causing a mass transformation. And I'll get back to that. Now, Ashwini is represented by the horse's head, and it represents a new beginning because when a rider jumps on a horse, it usually pats the neck of the horse to tell the horse to start going on the journey. It actually describes a new beginning in that way. It's also very spontaneous, just like Rahu. Now, Rahu is in Ashwini as well, adding to this kind of confusion. When we have Jupiter and we have Rahu together, Rahu is, especially Jupiter, not being able to give the results that it usually gives. Rahu is going to be taking over, Rahu and Saturn will be taking over the position of Jupiter and using Jupiter for its own gains, using knowledge for its own gains, materialistic gains as well. Now, this could be in a good way. Some people could actually hit the heights of things that they never thought possible, because Ashwini actually helps you do that. It can cure diseases that are uncurable. It can start a complete new beginning for you if that's what you are looking for, and your planets are well placed. That depends if your Saturn is well placed and your Rahu is well placed. But not only that, I don't want you to just rely on the chart. The other thing that matters is your level of consciousness, which means if you are doing meditations and you're doing spiritual work, you can bypass your birth chart. And so don't ever think that you're stuck on your birth chart. You can actually improve it. That's what you're supposed to do. This can help people gain the ability to hit some new heights and a new beginning, but this will also hinder others. This is represented by Kala Purusha, which is the divine cosmic being, which represents time and the zodiac, and also the different parts of the zodiac. It also has to do with the mental capacity and leadership. So at this time, leaders will be very confused. They will try to implement certain things that could be very toxic to the population, that they would want to start something new and change things that have always been happening. That could have to do with finance, because we're going to have Mercury in there, adding to the confusion. Jupiter is enemies with Mercury. So there's going to be confusion with communication from leaders as well. Ashwini also has to do with transportation, especially with Mercury retrograde at the end and until May. We're going to have a lot of problems with transportation, with accidents in transportation, with airplanes and accidents. This can be also transportation between different worlds. With Rahu there and Ashwini, if you are a spiritual person, you have the ability to hit new heights in consciousness as well. With Rahu aspecting Jupiter, you can expect a lot of deceit and a lack of help. Maybe help only for monetary gains. There could be lies in the health industry and new beginnings rush for health or health measures. And this could actually have to do with technology as well. And I've spoken about that a lot, that I really do see some digital technology with health coming through, or with the monetary system, with having Mars in Gemini right now, and having Mercury in detriment. Because Ashwini is known to help. It's known to be the helper, the one that can help people, that can cure people and everything like that. So with these aspects happening, we're going to have a lot of deceit in trying to help people. There will be some long-term health issues that will be solved for some of you. And these were issues that maybe you thought could never be solved. But for some, there will be some problems that can arise out of nowhere that you did not expect, especially when we get closer to the eclipse, which will be happening at Ashwini as well. The health problems, because this is ruled by two deities who are the celestial healers. The knowledge of all herbs is derived from this nakshatra and from healing and rejuvenation. So you have the ability to heal yourself in a natural way. There will be some things coming out that will be unnatural ways of healing, and people will find that later on, years and years later, that was a mistake to do. There will be concerns with friction and obstacles that have to do with marriage and couples. So if you're having some problems during this time, it's not the best time to make any decisions. Now, when Jupiter is combust, and I'll remind you the dates, till May 3rd, when Jupiter is combust, we're losing the ability to gain knowledge, the normal knowledge that we would require, sometimes from higher self as well. So it's not a time to make any decision. During this time, in the Hindu tradition, they don't do any occult rituals. They don't do any festivals or any pujas during this time, because having Jupiter combust, it really destroys the ability for these things to turn out correctly or even at all. So everything is put on hold. So that means if you have any problems, this is not the time to solve it. Rahu will be taking over the mind. Instead of acting with knowledge, will be acting out of impulse and obsession and ego, especially having it in Aries. So the best thing is not to act impulsively, but this will also be an opportunity for people to fix their relationships. There'll be a rise of sexual diseases and sexual disorders at this time. Animals may act different or confused at this time. Ashwini has the power to bring back things that were dead and make the old young again. If you tap into this power, you're going to be able to revive a lot of things that you thought you could never do. Maybe you dreamt of something and you never thought it could happen, and then you make it happen. Rahu brings you to the top of things, and Ashwini can help you do that as well. You have the ability to do that even if your chart doesn't say so. Now, it may be harder to do some spiritual practices at this time, but you do not stop doing your spiritual practices because it is important for you to get through this time in the highest vibration. Brahma, which is the creator among the Trinity, oversees this, which means it's the beginning of creation, the beginning of something new. Ganesha also represents this nakshatra, which is the removal of obstacles. We do the mantra before we do other mantras in Tantra because it removes the obstacles of the energy. That's really what it is describing when you do the mantra before others, so that your energy doesn't get stuck. This represents that. So because of the malefics that are aspecting this, this could cause more obstacles for some during this time. So just remember that that is normal, but it's helping you get through a lot of karma, because understand that when we have Saturn aspecting Rahu, Jupiter, and then with Rahu, we also have Ketu. These are very karmic times. These obstacles could come out of nowhere because it's a very spontaneous nakshatra. There'll be a lot of needless spending at this time and probably new fashion trends. And it's connected to all kinds of business activities. Now, I really see that there could be a new beginning in ways that business is done, the way that currency is distributed because of the other aspects, and because where Mars is, where Mercury is at this time, there's going to be a new way of how things are done. And I also do believe that this could be a huge financial crash during this time with having Jupiter in such poor quality, and there could be new technology in order to deal with that crash. That could be some kind of cryptocurrency at this time, because Saturn is in Shabahista, and that is 100 positions. It also equals the stars as well, but having it 100 positions and aspecting Ashwini, which has a lot to do with healing, any kind of healing activities. Could this be something coming up that had to do with the past health issues that we have faced? It could be. But there could be some secrets maybe that are revealed because of the past that we learn now, that we must learn from. More accidents, more things, hospitals could fill up at this time. This also has to do with grazing lands as well. There could be some problems with agriculture, some problems with chemicals that have to do with agriculture, using chemicals that affect the land. Mars is in Ardara right now, which is ruled by the god of storms. So I mentioned in my other video before the tornado happened, I warned about tornadoes. There are going to be more tornadoes, more flooding, a lot of accidents because of this, a lot of fatalities. Mars will be transiting in Purvavasu at the end of April 21st. That is the root of Jupiterian energy. So this is going to affect the Jupiter energy again, and people will be more aggressive with less knowledge as well. It has to do with good again and wealthy again, and this could cause some problems with the financial industry as well, where it kind of gets a little bit worse. It's everything that do with prosperity. It's also represented by a quiver of arrows. So it's about having the right timing. It's about regeneration and endless beginnings. So this actually can help some people move to the top financially. This could help some depending on your chart. Some things will, but there is a financial crash happening as well. Mars with Mercury, it brings a lot of criminal enterprises. With Rahu there, people got to be careful about getting scammed. That is something that you should watch out for. crypto scams, things like that. Also with Mars in Gemini, and when Mercury goes in retrograde, we should be very careful of cyber attacks. Attacks on websites, maybe attacks on social media, people getting scammed, things like that. We should be very cautious of that. Financial scams. Now we have what's called the Guru Chandal Yoga, which has to do with when Jupiter is within 15 degrees of Rahu. That will be on April 5th. So not only is it combust and having it there with Rahu being aspected by Saturn, we have to talk about Ketu being in Shawtee, which is the businessman. And then Rahu and Ashwini with the new beginning. New businesses will emerge, but also it's a new beginning for the fall of businesses. So to watch out for your ego and not to lose yourself, don't act impulsively on things. With Ashwini, you usually have to redo things a few times because you act impulsively and making mistakes. Mistakes will happen during this time. Not to be obsessive about materialistic pursuits, thinking that that's the only way instead of using your higher self and your discernment and your spirituality for gains, kind of going overboard with materialistic pursuits, because in the end, after when these aspects are done, you may have to go back and redo it. Now, Venus will be in between what's happening here until April 6th when it exits Aries. Now, on April 15th, we're going to have the Sun go into Aries. So we're going to have Venus, Sun, Mercury, Jupiter, all these things are going to be a little bit suppressed during this time. Venus is one of them. So thankfully, Venus will be out of there, but this will cause some relationship issues as well, having Venus in between Saturn and Rahu. And it's like a cutting off of the energy, of cutting off of partnerships, business partnerships, materialistic pursuits, things like that. Especially on April 3rd when it's in Kritika. Kritika is literally cutting off. It is the knife and it is cutting off relationships. So be careful that you don't cut things off too fast when it shouldn't be cut off. Just wait, it goes into Taurus and then it's well placed and it's not being affected anymore and we'll feel more love at that time. The two moons that will happen during this time is we have on April 5th or 6th, depending on where you live and your time zone, we will have the moon in Hasta, which is Virgo, and then we're going to have the Sun in Purva Bhadrapada. Hasta is working with the hands, anything to do with the hands. Virgo is also health too. Hasta can also be that wolf on Wall Street. That could be that businessman that will do anything to get ahead. So that's why we have to be cautious of the con man, because you remember that movie, he was not of the highest integrity, right? Purva Bhadrapada is transformation after death. It's when you die. It's a sacrifice that has to be made. The new moon is going to be when we have the eclipse, and that will be in Ashwini, and like I described. And I'll make separate videos about all of this. So don't worry about that because I don't want to make this video too long. It's already pretty long, but I'm going to make separate videos and I will explain this more into detail. So that's just a little breakdown of what we can expect in April. And I thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video.